Oh, that's one. Okay, yep. We have skeleton. We were putzing around here. Okay. Where's all the Zoom crap? So, hey, Krobe, since you're on,
Hey.
hi. I was telling Randall briefly, I have some existential questions, I'll call them.
Okay.
I was hoping Emily would be on. She probably is closer to this, but we should consult. Oh, okay, yeah. Anyway, I went to prepare for today and I'm behind, but setting that aside for a moment. I think the short version of it is I don't know what we're supposed to be doing is my fundamental concern.
I would be.
And it's probably me, and that's okay, and I can try to adapt. But I sort of thought we were going to do one thing, and then I think we are doing something that prepares for the thing I thought we were doing. And Emily seems to have a better grasp on it, but she's been very helpful in like kind of putting things where they belong. But I looked around and I'm pretty much lost, which is a bad leadership or co-chairing or whatever I'm doing. Help, please.
So,
yeah.
What each of the sub teams needs to do is look at their hunk of the plan, and they need to start to detail out a project plan. So, for example, 2.1, identify a core set of services. I need to have the steps documented, how we're going to achieve that, if there's what types of resources we need to achieve that, and if we need additional funding or external resourcing to achieve that, and when in the plan we plan on doing that. So identifying a core set of services, I would suggest should be a year one task, not a year two task. And that's probably one of the first things we want to get hashed out, exactly how are we going to achieve that. And then once we're done writing the plan, we have the details of the key steps and milestones and costs, then we can start doing the work. But I need to get this plan in shape to give to the governing board for approval for funding.
Got it. So, and this doc is, we've already sort of swapped some things around in here. So the doc on the screen is
exactly
more or less out of date, but that's fine. So
yeah, and we need to shove the details in there, refine, understand what we need to do to get these things achieved, and then kind of schedule it up.
Okay, but again, this is not, I mean, there's some overlap, but this is not, we are not here to identify the services. We are here to, I mean, maybe a little bit, but we're here to
2.1 says we are.
Yeah, it does.
So if we disagree with that, we can strike it. But then that leaves us with a bit of a gap, is when we assemble the team, we don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, no, agreed. My impression going in as part of our job was to identify the services and, leave sufficient flexibility, but, start with something and not just do whatever, right? Okay.
Correct. And even if we say we will refactor in year two, we need to have a list of things to ask for approval for year one.
Right. Okay.
And have some type of deliverable that these folks are potentially going to pay millions of dollars for.
Right. Oh, sorry. This is a helper doc. Okay.
I just want to point out, Art, if this is helpful, from
Yeah.
the initial conversations that I've had, we are not far with 2.1 on what, like, I guess the people around me, which is more system integration, so like, and container group and stuff like that.
Right.
We're not far from what they would see being helpful as well. So
Yeah. And if we have dependencies on other parts of the plan or external things, we need to note that. We have to say we can't identify the core services until group 1 is done with their upstream survey, for example.
I think that we can't solidify until that happens.
Got it. Yeah. So again, right. I know we've covered this too. Yeah. So, right. There will be input from stream 1, very likely.
Yep. And I would suggest that if we get stuck in analysis paralysis, it's better to have a small set of things we're going to commit to and begin forward momentum, and then state the rest of it's going to be figured out later, or we're going to pivot. But we need to have some things to do to get that proposal kicked off. And I would like to have the whole plan done and presented back to the governing board before the end of this year, if possible.
Yep. Okay. That makes reasonable sense here.
Cool.
The 2.x series was decided in the bigger disclosures working group, or where did we?
That
where
was
these came from? Yeah. Okay.
We sat down for several weeks, and the team agreed. The full SIG agreed these are the things we thought were good. Then I chopped them up into 3 sections, and the team looked at it and said, "Yep, that looks okay."
Right.
We have the ability to move things around, but if we're going to completely pull something out, I would suggest we want to talk to the full SIG again, because
sure,
the team thought each one of these things was important on some level.
And my main reason for asking is, so I think we decided to swap 2.2 and 2.4.
Yeah. If we need to move things around, that's completely up to us. And if we want to, we should, like 2.3, that's a really long name. We should shorten that up and maybe move that name to an explanation.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess some of the minor struggle I've had is, swapping around, no problem. I don't think I'm suggesting we want to like completely delete or change or add a whole, major, whatever, minor version. Yeah.
And if, for example, we think 2.3 belongs in the section 1, that's great. We would propose that to that group, saying we feel this is better worked on in this group.
Yeah, I think we've already sort of determined there'll be some overlap. I think that's okay, as long as we're in touch with each other, which we pretty much are. There's the 1.2.2 we were sticking on a little bit, but I think we've got that. I guess there's and
you potentially could fold that in to
it's sort of
if we have a step that says document the CERT's processes, we could insert 2.2 inside of that, because triage is a step within a CERT process.
Yes, and depends on the answers to what services are even being offered. 2.1.
Correct. Yep.
So this is a very dependent thing, and there's some pieces of this which we've talked about a couple of times, but
yep. And we would note, this is dependent on X or Y section.
Sure. There's a lot of sort of predictive dependency stuff, I think, which was tripping me up a bit as well. Is it, I guess, how reasonable is it to punt forward some of these things? For example, for triage is an easy example for me, I think, at least in my head. So, project plan, the someone needs to develop a triage system based on, some stuff, maybe for example, but I'd hesitate to, a year, 2 years in advance, try to dictate to a CERT team what their triage should be, right? That seems.
Yeah, from my perspective, I would address this one saying we need to create a triage process, define eligibility conditions, and then talk about create documentation, and that would be a very quick and simple set of milestones potentially. And there may be other things we want to add.
Probe, did we get final consensus on what our objective is? Because I think that also tied into a lot of this. If I'm remembering the previous conversation correctly.
I thought I sent that out to the list, but let me look. I don't know that I did.
I think you may have, and I think no one responded, or I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember anybody responding, which is awesome. Yay, open source.
Yeah.
But I think Art, a lot of it has to do with that, because as I've said in the past, I think we said like 10. I think was like kind of like the number everyone nodded at.
Right.
But then there was also the question of like, because we said 10 engagements, but we never really defined what is.
Yeah.
So if we don't have an answer and we can't get one in the call, I will get Randall and Art and Francis together, and the four of us will decide how we're going to start the approach of the CERT. And we have the ability, and if it changes in the future, great. But I've tried to provide the team the ability to have an opinion, but eventually that will come down to the kind of the four maintainers of the plan that we will make a decision.
Have to pick. Yep. Okay.
I think
let me verify I sent that out to the list first to make sure people have an opportunity to express their thoughts. And again, we'll talk about it again in the next full stage,
which is tomorrow, right?
Yeah. But if we don't have quorum, unfortunately, but we'll put the call out again, and if we don't get a consensus, the four of us will determine how best we feel we can meet the needs of this. And then when we put the proposal up to the governing board, they may disagree. They might say, we might say we want to be an educational body versus a physical CERT, and they might disagree and say no, go back and
Sure.
That being said, I did send Jogs has a very interesting help desk proposal. I don't know if he contacted you about it, but I told him that you might be a good person to talk to parallel what we're doing and what he's doing.
And I'm in, like today, I'm in conversations with Solar Designer about about the lists. And,
awesome. Good work.
Thank you. There's opportunity that we potentially could add. So this group could add some value to that. So maybe that's where some staffing might come into effect. Like we actually hire somebody to help, or we get the membership to volunteer bodies to rotate around. And that becomes a little more challenging because of the need for ethical wall. Solar is going to be really, and rightfully so, very strict about that separation of the individual from their company and knowledge sharing. So we will need to make sure that we get, we have to have a step somewhere, consulting with the foundation's legal to get these types of agreements drawn up.
Fair.
Crow, it's not our main topic here, but what's the engagement with Solar Designer? Is it his lists, or what's the
the lists are currently housed in Russia, which is complicated.
No, it's awesome, but go ahead. Yes. Sorry. it's total. Sorry, please continue, but
we
I hope they stay in Russia.
I'm
all right.
Talking with them about some proposals about how the foundation might be able to rehome and help him support that continuation of those lists, and hopefully expand. Maybe if he had access to more volunteers, maybe he'd be able to expand the services of the list.
Got it. Yeah,
We're still talking through that.
No, sure. It's just one of them. I just wanted to ask really, one of the many small ironies of large swaths of society and government dependent on single human beings on the planet.
Yep.
This cool Russian dude, is one of them. So
you'd be surprised the amount of talent that comes out of Russia in general. Like,
I may not be surprised, but the fact that I have to go through getting treasury exemptions to speak to them is
it's true.
classic problem, right?
Yeah.
So,
and if you want more information, we can talk offline.
no, I'm mostly curious. I'm sure you all can handle it. I'm a big fan of that style of work, and it's been, successful largely due to strict moderation and a single person's involvement, but it works. I mean, I sent stuff I disclosed to that list like 3 weeks ago. So one of the lists.
Yeah.
So
and we're working to explore how we might be able to help stabilize and support that critical infrastructure.
Okay, awesome. Sorry for the tangent. Thank you. Okay, so let me try to anchor myself again. Project plan. We're making project plans for parts of the big thing. Thing 5, I forget what they're called again, is
Stream 5. Yeah.
Stream 5 is open source CERT. We'll keep going down the hierarchy. This is screen. Hold on. We are in it'll be here in a minute. 2.1, 2. etc.
Yep.
We are here. And it is, I'm trying to wrap my head around, it's a project plan, which could be at times less than the actual plan, but it's sort of how to do the plan in some cases. And in some cases, it might be the actual plan. I think that's where I was really stumbling. Okay, all right.
Correct.
Okay.
And again, the TLDR of it is, I need to have a list of services we're going to offer, and a cost and required resources.
Okay.
Ask for funding.
Got it. Yeah, I think starting off, I already had personally decided what those should be. So I was just a little bit too far ahead and didn't do the homework. So yeah.
And, if we decide that it's going to be all volunteers, where everybody draws a straw and we pass the duty pager around every so often, great. If it's different, great. It's up to these teams to decide how we're going to execute on this goal.
So here's another. This is thanks. Let me. This is definitely getting into it here. So I feel like we were stumbling. I was at least tripping over. The possibilities, and we even have some more. Text in our doc that's like, there can be this type of person is full-time LF staff. This person is full-time. Stationed from their company staff.
Yeah.
These are community volunteers. These are pre-vetted volunteers. And we sort of started writing all these possibilities, which is fine. But what I'm hearing, I think, is we have to just pick something.
It's this.
And we can change it later.
Correct. If it's in this group, if that action item is in this group, it's up to us, whoever shows up, to talk about what we want, what we're going to propose. Yeah. And that's going to be it. Obviously, it always can change in the future. We can,
sure.
As we grow and develop and learn. But we need to be that kind of line in the sand and start to make some commitments.
If I may, I think the end all be all of the point of the CERT was to avoid like massive vulnerabilities like log4j, or not necessarily massive, but you get my point. Because I think the issue part of there was like, there was a lot of people trying to do a lot of things and a lot of finger pointing and
And think about it, at the end of the day, that particular vulnerability impacted a lot of end consumers. So if this group existed, what might we have done to assist? And we're not going to help Mark Cox and the team write patches. We potentially could have been a consumer advocate and done more communication downstream and kind of pushing suppliers to do this review and helping connect experts to explain the problem.
Right.
Because Log4Shell was really, it's a supplier problem. There were problems with how the event unfolded and mistakes were made, but at the end of the day, upstream they followed their process-ish.
Yep.
And it got gummed up in the middle with the suppliers, and customers had no way to really understand, am I affected?
Right. So again, I'm hearing again just maybe hopefully for the last time today, from me at least. My needle is more towards pick something and write it down.
Mhm.
Even if we acknowledge there are certainly other options, we are supposed to sort of
Be opinion.
pick something here,
Yes.
and we're not supposed to describe all the possibilities and leave
Correct.
it sort of unsaid. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Okay, that helps.
Yes.
That's kind of where I was, but then not the vibe I got during the last whatever
No,
month
that's
or so.
absolutely it. Let's be opinionated.
Yep. All right.
Let's
Got
be open to other opinions.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's
Yes.
have an opinion and put forth.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I'm very clear. Picking something and acknowledging there are many other options is perfectly fine, and we may even write that down. Like here's several ways to do it. We propose thing way 2 or whatever. We'll pick way 1, right? So, okay. Got it. And then I had a log for here's I was going to engage you on. We're not going to write patches. Sure. So writing patches is on our list, and of course that may not be necessary.
To see that removed. And
okay, never mind then.
Either punted to future years.
Okay.
Or added as a by request. I don't think I don't know that any upstream team is going to ask us to write the patch for them, but
you'd be surprised. I've written plenty of patches for GNOME.
Yeah, so
it's different because you're an active community member. It's going to be hard to have. It's going to be hard to have that coverage across millions.
Okay, I think. Sorry, I think I know. Okay, so yes, perhaps we don't want, and I think I'd agree with this. A core service is not patch writing.
Yes,
I agree with that.
The reason I was sort of engaging is that and I've seen this, and it's not, no one's perfect, right? But I bet Apache's fix, and I forget exactly the order of things. A very mature, competent team can sort of make an omission or a coverage mistake that happens regularly, and it's not anyone's fault. It's the nature of the beast. So I feel like, if someone does throw in a patch or there's patch review, even not as a core service, but as part of it's open source, right? So, hey, we're about to fix this thing, and there it is in the repo. Here, catching that kind of thing before it goes to thousands of suppliers or downstream is a super win when you catch one of those.
Let me actually say something that came up in my interview with Mike McQuaid from Homebrew was that, so there's an expectation with Homebrew users that Homebrew has this sophisticated system oversight at some point,
right.
And it doesn't exist.
Sure.
So
I get that a lot. Yeah.
So he was saying that and it's kind of weird because people get hostile when you tell them that Homebrew is not a security tool. It's there to offer you what you want. It's kind of your responsibility to figure out what you want and how what you want will serve you best. So yeah. And he actually mentioned the old Debian problem too. So
and so an example where we might add value could be, we potentially could be a public point of contact if a security researcher is unclear about how to approach an upstream. We might offer to help facilitate and make that connection with the maintainer of the project. That could be something we do. That would require people to do that.
Yep. So Krob, I mean, whatever. Randall, you and I less so, but Krob and I have worked for a long time on and off together, right? Clearly I come with my past experience of the coordination side of things. And I think that's a reasonable class of service for this sort of level of CERT team, right? It's across arguably any open source project. I know some are sort of more LF side, and some folks are sort of like, no, we're off on our own, whatever. But we would offer anyone open source some kind of help and support. I see no way coordination is not, one of the services or the first one, right? Okay.
And
Got it.
Maybe upstream needs connected with a subject matter expert.
Yep.
not to be like that about it, Crow, but you kind of hit it. What Mike McQuaid's request was right on the head. Was that if there was a intermediary that is needed in his opinion from the homebrew side.
Yeah. All right. I'm on board here. Okay.
And then we can make sure that every coordination we're involved with gets disclosed through OSS security or through whatever. We have a kind of a guaranteed way that we're always consistently communicating potentially.
Yep. Got it. Yes.
And let me also say this, that like I think that it could be very helpful for a lot of projects, not just homebrew.
Yeah. Yeah, and we will work with whatever capabilities that maintainer and project has. If they need more help, we'll try to see if we can find people. If they need less help, it's just kind of making a handshake, between two parties.
Right.
And we potentially could leverage a tool like Vince that we would need to have some modifications to help facilitate that communication, possibly.
Yep, we've had some of our work has been on. Oh, sorry, I don't know what I'm sharing right now. Hopefully nothing offensive, right?
No, it's still the same.
Yeah, good. I'm sorry, I flipped screens and lost where I was. We have talked about a platform, like how to do this stuff. So that's covered. That's in our mandate or our remit, right? Somewhere like processes, conditional upon, sorry.
Yeah, and maybe
expectations of staff.
Yeah, maybe this group hires some developers that help contribute to that project, that platform.
Yeah, technically speaking, I think we could argue our way out of doing that, but out of platform. But I will leave it in. It's no problem. I'm not worried about excluding it.
It's whatever the group wants to do. It's not what I do.
Yeah. Nope. Got it. I mean,
if it was me, I'd write this plan. We wouldn't have this meeting.
Yeah. Okay.
Too much
I also think that an important.
That's what I was going to do. Sorry. All right.
I think another important part is where we're going to land on that education, like critical scale. I think that also has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, and maybe we find subject matter experts to write good process and playbooks, and then we fob that over to the education SIG for them to go evangelize.
Yeah, we talked about we have notes on an educational educational an education related service, I think is how we were looking at it, right? Is education part of this?
Yeah, like a big buddy to help out, to help coach you.
Sure. And we discussed, I do recall, is sort of education implicit in, you asked for help, you found us, we found you asked for help, we offered help.
Yeah.
It worked out, we helped in the way you wanted. During that case and that experience and that item, that incident, you learned some stuff and you're better off for the next time. I would certainly plan to write that down for sure.
Yep.
There was discussion about is education the first order job of this CERT? And someone did note that there's there's an education SIG in OpenSSF somewhere.
Yep.
So
I know the guy that leads that.
Yeah, certainly we would want to be working with them. Oh, is it you? It's not you, is it?
It's me.
Okay. All right. Anyway, but still, open question here was whether or how much is education a first order service, I guess, was one of the questions. And we didn't, I don't think we answered it yet. Yeah.
I actually think that the first question is because I think education and critical are two different things. Because you don't want to educate someone when they're getting hacked. Not that ever happens, but you get my point. Like you don't want to play the education card when there's like actual incident and you need to do something to make the bleeding stop, basically.
No, ideally we have a procedure we can to understand what that situation is and to know, we're not going to execute the education playbook at this time.
I was, okay. Not to get into details, but I think that's that unmaintained software that someone wrote once upon a time and forgot about, and now everybody uses.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I mean, that definitely exists. So,
And you also have projects like GPG that have like 2 developers.
Yeah.
I know of projects with less developers, I think. Less active developers, at least. Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. What time? What are we on? Okay, 33.
But considering that like GPG is like like an essential part of GitHub, you think at some point somebody would have thought of it, right?
Well, I mean, but it does have a few developers, but it's really reasonably mature. And what's his name really cares, and it's his baby, and he fixes stuff, right?
Yeah.
So Warner, yeah. So it's not unmaintained, truly speaking, right?
But he can't get to. I mean, he clearly tells people that he can't get to everything, and people just are like, "Yeah, okay."
And maybe that's we have a process where we find situations like that.
Yep.
We push that over to the alpha team. Maybe my opinion would be GPG is pretty important. It probably should be on the foundation's critical list. So what can the foundation do to help?
But there is an issue there, Krob, because he is very like not wanting outside people.
But
of course,
again, we would ask him, what can we do to help you? You know, do you need testing infrastructure? Do you need whatever? You know,
I can send him a survey.
Storage.
I do. I can send him a survey, and I do have his info. So
yeah, but
sure.
It doesn't need to be external people muddling in his playground. But are there things that anything we could do to help make his job of supporting that software easier?
Yeah,
that's I think more of an alpha thing, not an us thing.
Right.
Yeah.
The CERT may learn of those things firsthand, case by case, and then a follow-up could be, yes, refer to critical list, refer to alpha, refer to education SIG, whatever there might be. Yeah. And yeah, to your point, Randall, I'm not suggesting right in the midst of, in the dead midst of Log4j on day 2 of it, we stop and have a 3-day seminar. But I mean, this is personal experience, right? There is no, unless you truly are just I don't know what the word would be, but as you're making the mistake and living it, it is a learning experience. And even with no one pointing it out, like one of the things we tried at CERT all the time was we never tried to leave a case without the parties involved being better prepared for next time. And we had no educational remit or official anything. Well, we actually spun something off, but
the word I would use to describe that is diluted, and you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how many people like that there are in the specifically. Let me talk about the Linux desktop community, because that community is a very interesting community.
Oh man, it's the year of the Linux desktop, I hear.
It is. Again, awesome. As I try to add something to this Linux laptop here, which is working fine, but
I just installed Wayland and discovered that I can't do screen sharing.
Well, I'll say this: Mac Ports wasn't building something, so I'm off to Linux. So anyway,
what's funny? Not to be like that about it, but a lot of Apple people are now in Linux desktop specifically, like Jonathan Levin.
I have it right next to me here. Anyway, okay, so I'm both of you, but Krob especially, because thank you. I feel a little better about the what are we doing in the first place? What am I supposed to be doing in the first place?
Huzzah!
We'll try to tune things towards a draft. Decisions and choices and opinions, with room for obviously for feedback and change and everything, and considering all the options, but let's just pick some. Okay, and this repo is in the CERT. So whatever we're doing in Google Docs, do you want stuff back in here, or does it matter too much, or is this just a starting? You do want it back in?
Yeah, no, I want everything in the Git repo. We got
it.
For my personal opinion, Google Docs are easier to do
the first part,
synchronous editing on. At some point, the repo is the source of truth, and we'll eventually start managing things through the PR process.
So I have a quick question. Krob. So on mine, we had like the same document, and I just separated them earlier today, and I put a link to the meeting notes. You can see it on meeting notes. So am I supposed to like synchronize, because I can do that if it's required, but I need to be added with a collaborator on GitHub. Should I synchronize after each meeting the GitHub?
I would, if you have the time and ability, I would prefer that. Again,
Yeah,
that way everything's out there in the very public domain, even though the Google Docs are generally open anyway. But that way,
It's
people
Gen 2.
around the foundation have been trained to look in the GitHub.
Fair. Okay. I can do that. Can I be added as an outside collaborator or something to just
I
make
thought you were.
I don't think I am.
If you could send a note to
Okay.
operations at OpenSSF and CC me
Okay.
and ask them to add you. Actually add, if you want to get yours and Art's GitHub ID and just ask for both of you. And
Yes, yes, thank you. I'm Z Mannion. I'll type it in here. Hang on.
I have you, Art. I follow you.
Got it.
Yeah, and just say, please add us.
I follow my favorite developers. What can I say?
Developer. I'm not a developer. I just put text documents on GitHub. That's my
Anything
job.
goes.
I know.
I'm shoving all my old conference presentations into GitHub.
I'm putting, I have like, where do I have to put, I don't have a blog or a thing anymore. I'm like, oh, I'll just put it on GitHub, and it works so far. So good. All right.
Yeah.
Make it.
And you can host your own blog on GitHub for free if you so wanted to.
I did not even know that, but
Yeah.
Thanks. All right.
Pages.github.com will give you all the details there.
All right.
It used to be like, if you were cool, you would host your blog on GitHub.
Yeah. Markdown files are working for the moment, but okay. Shoot.
There's a whole can of worms there, Art. Just so you know.
I'll bet there is.
But I guess we could do this over email. But for example, there's a bunch of notes under 2.1 that said, this was moved from here. If the three of us can agree on all the little arrowed comments, that'll on 2.1, that'll be kind of a start,
Yeah, no, I've got I have a pile of edits for this basically. They're all in the
comments, just for the record.
Yeah, and if you don't have time, get me the document and I'll put it into GitHub.
I've been saying
I just
for
had to
weeks
do a bunch of PR approvals for the education SIG, so I'm okay being a GitHub monkey occasionally.
Let me take another crack at doing the next cut myself. I've got a bunch of stuff queued up.
Cool.
I think I understand better. It'll be easier to pick and edit and the words and sentences with that guidance, and then that'll give this subgroup something to look at next time. So there'll be a new markdown file, and we can go kind of respond to that. I think.
I also want to add, one of the things we talked about last time in this group was the first has their own process and whatnot.
I know a guy that wrote that.
Well, yeah. I thought it was a part of the homework to read it, so I read it, and I actually think it's really, really good. And I actually think, Art,
thanks.
Maybe
you might want to look at the maturity document, Randall. That actually kind of provides an opinion on what services a starting P-cert should offer, and then like an intermediate and then an expert cert.
Yeah, I will. I haven't looked at that one yet. I'm making a note. But
I know the guy wrote that too.
I can imagine. But I think that's a really good jump off point for us, Art, is first has it like what they have is very sensible and it's very well laid out. And I think that's a perfect jump off point. Because then we don't even have to rewrite everything.
Yeah. Without reading it again recently, which I have not just done, my guess would be the things we'd pick are in here. Knowing many of the authors. Krobe, what is this maturity document you speak of? Part of first or not?
I thought it was linked there. I'll find you a link.
Oh, no
But
worries. Just in
basically-
case, if it's relevant, yeah, I'll read it. Thank
No,
you.
it's basically I say, I'm sorry, the SIG said, air quotes,
Right.
these are the 3 things we think a beginning PSERT should do.
Got it.
There it is. Hold on.
Would first be willing to collaborate also on this, you think, Rogue? Maybe.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm all into
Many
collaboration.
of those folks are members of the OpenSSF. So whether it's through the foundation or by approaching first, the PSERT SIG.
Got
So I
it.
put in the chat the link to the maturity thingy.
Yep.
Very good.
But I actually think if we model our stuff, like in my personal opinion, I mean, they really do have it like nailed down. I think there might be some stuff that needs to be modified,
Yep.
but I think that for the most part, they have a very good idea of how, like, what needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I also like the idea because, like, I think that there's a lot of different companies that might not be able to afford like a CERT type of unit, but offer open source software where maybe we could offer the services that way, or I don't know. It's an idea.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Because
It
what Mike McQuaid told me is that usually what happens in homebrew right now is that if homebrew finds an issue, which they do, it's not like it's that uncommon that they don't. They do find a lot of buffer issues and stuff like that because of how much they need to compile. But it's really hard to like get in touch with upstream, talk to someone in upstream, do all of that stuff. So it would be a lot easier for there to be a point of contact where something like that can just be pushed off to someone that has the contacts or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
And I know Gen 2, here's a funny thing that came out of the Gen 2 discussions. So when they first read, because obviously I sent the repo and it takes a long time for people to respond. They read the repo. They thought that this was like a collaboration offer so that we could all bury the hatchet between security teams and collaborate with one another. And he was the response. That's not going to happen. We're not burying any hatchets.
Oh dear.
So yeah, but as we've talked about it, I think they may be willing, and they might actually. There's actually really good people in Gen 2. It's just the fact that they're very opinionated.
Yeah, and I want to get Marcus keeps popping in once in a while from SUSE. I'd like to get Marcus's opinion on this because he has a lot of experience, a couple decades of experience doing this. Yeah, I'll reach out straight to him too. He should be one we get on the list to talk with. And yeah, I think there's a lot of folks we can talk to and learn from and get opinions on how what might add value to their exit, how we might be able to augment or kind of parallel other folks' processes.
Fair.
Yeah, I don't want to replace them, but if it would be helpful for them if we provided some kind of thing, that would be great. Or if we just know here's where all their advisories pump out the back end, and we help, accelerate or evangelize that.
Right. Agreed. I think Red Hat security team would also be good to include. I know that they're not 100% open source, but they are very storied.
They are 100% open source. That's where I worked for 7 years. I was their program architect. But yeah, we absolutely can bring them in. And that's something actually, some of the first PRs in the vulnerability disclosure group was me trying to encourage them to open source their process of how they engage with upstream as kind of a potential model for folks to learn from.
You know, I'm a big Red Hat fan, much to everyone's dismay at Gen 2.
Nice.
I ported a Bort to Gen 2, which is very Fedora. But yeah. They even told me that, Red, we're going to have to block your internet access to Red Hat sites because like half of your documentation is taken for Red Hat. I'm like, I know. It's because it's accurate. And they're like, no, it's not accurate.
Hey, Krob, one thing you said about the markdown file here,
No.
basically assuming these things have been moved, we're moving them and then delete all these comments basically, right? Is that
Yep.
what you said earlier? Okay.
Yep. If you agree with it, if you don't agree with it, we can.
You know, I'll leave if it's not clear to me, I'll leave them open, but a number of them we've dealt with, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah, like for education, they actually passed quite a few tasks back and forth between the sub teams.
Yeah.
And so we put that in there just as a placeholder until the group said, yes, we agree, we accept that.
Okay.
But I don't know that we have that situation here.
Okay. This now reminds me of another same thread I've started the whole conversation off with, but and Randall keeps talking about these the 10 engagements per unit of time, I guess per year. If we want those sorts of things, that's fine, but that absolutely requires, right, saying what the things are and who's doing them, and
Yep.
you know, really picking some of those things. So we definitely, I have definitely tripped both feet over hours cost estimates when we had sort of not defined what the things were.
I think what priority one is to define what engagement is, because I think 10 is a low number, but then again, it depends on what you define as engagement.
Yeah, there are many different shapes and sizes.
And
I see. All right.
Francis has the action to define and report on key metrics. So we haven't decided on 10. I think 10 might have been in the original plan, but
that was the original call, Crow.
We can rewrite that.
Yeah, no, and I'm not. My concern with the number at all is that 10 log for J's, or is it 10? What did I just do? Write a CVE for Poplar.
Yeah, that was really nice.
Yeah, one takes an hour with some round trip delays for the developer who's busy, and the other one takes 5 people full time for a month, right? So yeah. So the 10 without knowing what the 10 things are, to me, is even dangerous. I would go so far as to say. Yeah.
And again, it's up to us to define what we are willing to propose and commit to.
Oh, okay.
So it's up for us to write down what we say engagement means.
I would argue though that like what you wrote, Art, would probably seem more like useful, I guess.
I'm trying to figure out. At SIRT, Alan, a colleague of mine there, he looked at our data, so it was just a subset, but he had some distribution math on sort of getting in at least in the ballpark of how many log4j's will there be per whatever. So, and again, part of this part of the trouble with the response team is you're doing some estimates on, right, how many car crashes, fires, log4j's, and whatever else are there going to be per unit of time, and how do I staff for that? And then what if we're all ready and nothing happens for 6 months, right? So what do you do with people's time? Those are some, those are hard things. We're not just producing widgets, and we need 10 people produce 10 widgets per whatever. It's not a static calculation.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. So wait, sorry. We do want resource estimates.
Yes.
If possible, or we just the answer is we want them. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Got it.
And that could be compute resources, it could be people, it could be subscriptions or money. I don't know, whatever the particular item ends up being. Anything we need to achieve that milestone, write that down. And if it's like just volunteer time, try to swag out. This is probably 4 people spending 8 hours for a total of blah volunteer hours.
Thank goodness some .mil site has what I was looking for. I don't know how it got here, but okay. Oh, there's paper. Never mind. I'll go look at that. Yeah, I'm hoping that this work will give us a little bit of ability to say, there's going to be here. I'm going to make some shit up randomly, but we expect whatever 1 log for J per year and 3, I don't know what's per year, and then 400 something else. And as the 400, we're going to not be able to do all of those because they're a bunch of small things, but
yeah,
right. We'll try to point people to education and help themselves and
indeed.
See if GitHub or something else will help them. But and here at CROB, actually, I think this is true, but let me run it past you. It is perhaps, I would say that it is, but it's perhaps really important that this proposed CERT is for handling the 100-year floods or the 1-year floods or whatever the big things are that require coordination across different developers and maintainers and communities, where it's not just a single Red Hat problem, not that it ever would be, but right, it's only Red Hat's going to fix for only Red Hat customers, right? So
yeah, and that's where we might have that like research, like the security researcher negotiation skills, whereas a developer might not, or we have access to tech writers that can actually write a really well-written CVE. We might have additional capabilities to add to the disclosure.
I've having a weird bit of, I wouldn't call it downtime, but more time than usual in the last month or so. I've done all those things by hand recently, so I'm chuckling. Yeah, for example, this yellow area on my screen means these are the big things.
Yep.
And I think I'm going to suggest that this CERT be designed to definitely handle this stuff, because this is the big stuff that everyone notices and matters and is hard to do. And then, we deprioritize the green. If you're not busy, sure, right? Dig down into whatever else you can do to be helpful. But the top priority, these things are interrupt when they come, and we definitely try to staff and resource and help them. Okay.
Yeah, and as we get into,
helpful?
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry.
Would it be helpful, Crob, if we made if log4j happened after the CERT, like this is how we envision the CERT would work, and what the expected outcome or what our expected outcome is, or something like that?
For the task ahead of us writing the plan, no. But as supplementary material, and when we get to the point of marketing and trying to sell the CERT to upstream, yes, we definitely need that. But for our task today, we don't necessarily need that.
Okay.
But like Tart's statement, we should state we are looking at our primary goal is to be involved in X number of major events that we estimate would take 1,000 people hours to solve. And then we have when we're not dealing with that, here are the types of things we would do as part of our estimate. But we definitely need that kind of as part of our marketing and sales after the fact.
Okay.
To kind of explain what we are.
No, all good. I mean, that's I don't know how else to staff one of these things, right? You've got an expectation of big cases, and you have to have staff for that. If you can surge with your volunteers and your Good Samaritans, great. And you need a plan for how to do that and have them ready in advance. But that's awesome. Surge support. And if your full-time sort of static staff costs or resource costs are idle in between whatever hurricanes, go make yourselves useful on a couple of these sorts of things that are sort of always around, and go be helpful with whatever you can. Sure, great. That's how I used to do things. Good. right?
And then as part of the management of the CERT operationally, they need to,
Yeah,
track trends and understand when do we need to have additional staff, or how to go out and petition for more volunteers, or, however we're going to solve the problem.
Would it be helpful if I put together a piece of paper that what we in packaging commonly qualify as a big package?
Ooh.
Sure. I mean,
because let me give insight.
Yeah.
Let me give insight. So, like, for example, in Gen 2, a big package is something, for example, that goes over multiple architectures.
Right.
Something, because then it becomes more difficult to coordinate. And that's why I think, because what I'm hearing a lot is that it kind of sounds like our big thing might be like coordinating when there is multiple like vendors and whatnot, because then it gets difficult. And then there isn't a point of contact. And then you have all these different vendors that are complaining, and it becomes a problem because people get irritated. Anyway, long story short. So I'm kind of thinking if we can qualify, like, okay, we're going to handle these big incidences, but what is a big incident? Like, what would qualify like as a big package? If it's a package that's just Apple, then obviously Apple will be able to handle it. They don't need to have a bunch of vendors come in because there are no other vendors. You see my point?
Yeah, you're talking about like kernel or OpenSSL, these kind of foundational things that affect multiple distributions or multiple projects. Yeah,
correct.
Log4j.
Yeah, exactly.
glibc.
Because I would say that those are the ones that are, because in my opinion, those are the ones that are most targeted, because those are also the ones that have the most amount of problems with maintainers, dependencies, just, It's the bigger
have some exemplars of how this would look in action.
Yeah. I was going to say the bigger projects don't have the problems the smaller projects do.
Correct.
Like, I know that, what is it? Isn't it OpenSSL that nobody wants to touch with a 10-foot pole? So they built Libre SSL as an excuse.
There's a whole team supporting OpenSSL.
Sorry, go ahead.
But it was forked, yes.
But correct me if I'm wrong. The whole reason of Libre SSL was because nobody wanted to join OpenSSL because there's a bunch of code in there nobody understands. But then,
well, yeah, I think there were some personalities, perhaps, but that's my understanding, also, right?
Yeah,
was that not a BSD thing? Libre SSL.
That's the story I got from Apple. Was that the reason they used Libre SSL was because there's a bunch of code in OpenSSL that they don't understand. They can't work.
I think the answer is Theo didn't like what he saw and made his own, which is totally fine. And I use OpenBSD all the time, but this is looks like an OpenBSD. Yeah, here it is. Right.
Also, OpenSSL has kind of a longer tail because they get FIPS certified.
Yep.
So they're not able to be quite as agile and fast as some of the other derivatives.
There were a bunch of new SSL crypto libraries after that. Okay.
It's amazing the things people tell you to justify their crimes.
Yeah.
Randall, one comment. Oh, we're at time, but so yes, please. Whatever qualifies as a big package to maintain a big project. I'm very interested in knowing that, especially like from the mouths of the people who do it. That's always good knowledge to have from the source.
Got it.
I will comment though that a large package may or may not mean, a large response case. Often it probably does, but I've seen small things be giant, and sometimes a giant thing goes very smoothly because they've got stuff in place in advance and it's straightforward, right?
Yeah. And that might just mean you need white glove service, and we need to make sure
correct.
Yes. Back from that project that they've got it handled.
Another thing that I might be able to get out of Homebrew, possibly Gen 2 as well, is I might be able to get a list out of them of like, what are our biggest packages and what are the packages you find most difficult, like security wise working with. Might be able to finagle that.
All right, I need to go drop for reporting out to the business. I will.
Right on, we're at time. Thank you both. That was super, super helpful. I feel better. I won't resign yet. So good.
Let me send my problem that I was typing out, for you to have it,
I
Mark.
said I'm not resigning. Sorry, go ahead, Randall. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
This is my Google Docs with all of my problems that I'm typing out. I plan on organizing them, categorizing them better, but I'm just throwing stuff on there based off of the conversation I had with Mike. I should have another one with Gen 2 later, but yeah, just wanted to send that along.
Yeah, we probably should consolidate these, get them into like user story statements.
Okay,
And not today though. That's a tomorrow problem.
fair.
Okay. Thank
All right,
you.
thanks, guys.
Take care.
Appreciate it.
Yep.